Welcome to Books and Brews Light. We are on episode number 80 with David Goldberg. I forgot to ask how you pronounce your name. I'm trying to be in the habit, but I don't think I can possibly mess this one up, can I?
Yeah, you can, actually. You could call me Davey or Dave. Yeah.
Oh, well,
But it is
but it's
David.
written David. So unless you pronounce it like David or, I am trying to get into the habit of asking people before the show starts because some names, in fact, like my last name, a lot of people find it hard to pronounce from looking at it. So I just try and make sure I have it right. But I have it right, so we're good to go. And so in the notes that I got from you before we started, you like to drink Monster energy drinks while you're writing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is my choice drink. It's to my wife's dismay, but yes.
Does it make you hyperactive, like vibrate with energy, or why does she dislike it?
To answer question one,
Mhm.
if I appear hyper energy right now or like overly like over the top or something, well,
No,
this is how I am.
you
This is
seem
how I am on Monster Energy.
okay.
Perhaps without Monster Energy, I'd be sleeping right now. So yeah.
Well,
You know what? It's bubbly and it's yummy, and I think it's really bad. And maybe I
mhm.
shouldn't say that on public podcast. I don't know. I don't know how healthy it is, but it's my one vice.
Well, as you said that, I sort of thought of an old skit. I don't know if it was SNL about Perry Como. And the only reason I even knew who Perry Como was because of this skit. And it was about how totally relaxed he was. I think it was Steve Martin playing the part. And gradually he's just sitting down and then he's laying down and then he's laying flat out on the stage, still singing. And the joke was about how relaxed he is. And so
Yeah.
I was imagining you, without Monster Energy, just kind of sleeping and typing with one hand or something like that. So I had a Monster Energy drink once and it scared me to death.
Oh no.
I was making an all-night drive through the night to go to my son's graduation from Marine boot camp with a bunch of my kids in the car. And we stopped at a friend's house in Nebraska, and he had thought we were staying the night. And he was very worried that I was planning on driving through the night. So he gave me a Monster Energy drink. I thought, well, that's a good idea. I drank it, and my heart just went bananas. It went nuts, and I said never again. So it is interesting how differently it affects people, but that scared me, and I will never touch it again. So I
Really?
drink water until I get
Okay.
really cold, and then I drink wine in the evening to warm up because it's the only thing that warms me after the water chills me. So
If you had bought a 2-pack of Monster Energy, I'll have your others. Your other.
that's what I always said about these women who didn't want drugs in childbirth. I said, I'll take mine and hers. I'll
Yeah.
take all the drugs I can get. And I know whereof I speak. So welcome to the program and give a little background on who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on and giving me the opportunity to share what we're doing. My background's quite interesting. I'll make it quick. I am a musician. And as a very young child, my mom was always mad at me because she would take piano lessons and try real hard to play songs. And evidently, when the piano teacher left our home, I would sit down and just play it. For some
Mhm.
reason, I was born with the ability to play. And I played through school, into high school, into college. I went into school as a music major at some point. In school, in college, I came across a 4-track cassette recorder. I don't know if everyone listening knows what a
That's old
cassette is.
school.
Yeah.
Yep.
I bought this cassette recorder and I realized, wow, with a multi-track cassette recorder, I could actually record songs on my own because I'm also a drummer. So I could play drums on one track and then
Yep.
overdub with piano and overdub and so on. The next thing I know, I loved recording more than performing. So I
Mhm.
began recording bands and then larger bands. And I ended up with a really like amazing list of people who I performed and recorded: John Mayer, Mel Torme, Deep Purple, all these like players. And
And this was when you were still in college. You were
No,
working.
by this point I was
okay.
in my 30s.
Okay.
And I worked with a lot of heavy metal bands, heavy,
Mhm.
pretty hard rock bands, and the drug scene was crazy. And I don't do drugs. I never did. I don't even
Smart.
drink beer. I just, yeah, Monster Energy is my drink, not even beer.
Yeah.
But I was in a studio once for probably 16 hours straight in these soundproofed, airtight rooms with so much drugs going on that when I was driving home from the studio, I couldn't even see straight. I think it was secondhand smoke. I don't know what it was.
Mhm.
And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm going to kill myself. And so I
Mhm.
became a drug-free studio and I lost all my clients. So
Oh no.
yeah, well,
That's a
the
sad
bands I worked with, most
comment
of the bands I
on
worked with were, they were pretty
right.
heavy into the drugs. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the music. I really loved the music. I miss the music. I miss mixing. I miss this stuff. But the scene just, it wasn't my scene. And so I moved into voice recording. Because what else do you do with microphones and acoustically treated
Right.
rooms and things? And so I
Mhm.
called a nonprofit that I believed in. I just used to contribute money to, donate money to, and they said, "Do you need radio commercials, perhaps?" And they said, "Oh my goodness, yes." And the script writer said, "We have another client we work with. That would be a paying job." And next thing I know, I had 2 studios and three, and now we have five voiceover studios in New York City, and it's
That's
the
amazing.
coolest thing. Yeah, and we record every genre of voiceover imaginable. My teams are amazing. We record commercials, documentaries, audiobooks, the soundtrack for cartoons and video games. The 5 studios are running. We are really, really busy. Thank goodness.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Can
and
I
the role
back
I've
up a
taken.
minute?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I back up a minute? I don't know if did you say you majored in music or you
Well,
thought about it?
I thought about it. I went in as a music major, music and art major, and then soon after I switched to something else.
Okay. I actually did major in music.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I think you would love our house. We have probably about 75 to 80 instruments in this house.
Oh, wow.
And that includes 2 grand pianos. I taught music lessons for 32 years. And so we've got 2 grand pianos in our house. One is tuned to modern tuning. One is tuned to, I believe it's the well-tempered clavier tuning. And so my husband is an absolute phenomenal pianist, and he'll go play this Baroque music on the 2 different pianos to compare how it sounds with 2 different centuries of tuning. And then upstairs, he's got his whole rack of guitars and his drum set. And you two would have fun in this house.
Yeah, I'm wondering why we're recording by Zoom and not in person right now, is what I'm thinking.
Well, because you're New York City and I'm in the Appalachians with the dog men outside in my woods.
Oh
So
my goodness. Wow, that sounds
that's
amazing.
yeah,
Uh,
and I'm curious, did you ever happen to work with BB King?
no.
Okay, if you had, you might have actually met my son's godfather who played with him for a time, I think in the 70s, although I'm guessing that was before you were recording.
That was
So,
yeah, that was yeah, I was born in the 70s, but I was
okay.
3.
Okay, so
So
you weren't recording when you were 3 years old.
no, but I evidently was playing piano at that point. So I was a delay.
Okay,
I was born either hard of hearing or partially deaf to some degree.
really?
Partially deaf is kind of a weird term. Uh,
Mhm,
and I was an incredibly delayed speaker. My parents say
mhm,
I didn't put sentences together until I was like 8 or 9.
mhm.
I didn't speak individual words, single words even until I was 5 or 6. That's really late.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
is.
so I learned to communicate by like, I found other ways to communicate by pointing, by making sounds, but I couldn't
Mhm,
form words. And in my current role of my business, now that I've had 38 years, my business, going from music recording to voice recording, I've always played the part, well, originally as producer, producing music,
mhm.
and now as voice director. So I direct cartoons and commercials and all of these things. And so it's interesting because I draw upon, I think the ability to communicate what something should sound like from the days that I couldn't speak and I needed to come up with my own ways of communication.
Mhm.
And now I still come up with different ways to communicate to voice actors how to communicate. It's
Hmm.
kind of like it's all come back around. So it's cool.
Right. No, and I was thinking as I was reading over your site, I should be incredibly nervous to be speaking and presenting myself to someone whose profession is speaking and presenting. But you do a lot of vocal coaching. Now, what is the balance between your vocal coaching and the production work?
It's all tied together. I spend about half of my time working on my business and half the time
Mhm.
working in my business. I I absolutely love directing voice actors, presenters. My main clients are politicians and executives. I work with a lot of both of those two groups.
Right.
And
And I was very interested to read on, I think it was an article you wrote, because I do, look through people's background. Don't mean to sound like a stalker, but, to prepare for an
you don't
interview.
come across as one either.
Thank goodness. Actually, with my last guest, the last full podcast, we talked about stalkers, and I had a very interesting experience with an elderly man in our neighborhood who is, he blamed it on his medication, and we ended up having to call the sheriff. So thank goodness I don't come across as that. But I was interested in seeing that one of the reasons celebrities really like working with your studio is because you don't put on any fanfare. You don't ask for photographs. You don't ask for autographs. Why did you go that route?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That's one no one has ever asked me before. I think it probably began. You know why? I'm sure I know why.
Mhm.
No, I'm not sure I know why. I think I know why. I think because when I was working with musicians,
Mhm.
it was common back in those days to spend 6 months with musicians.
Mhm.
It wasn't like a celebrity comes in. Okay, I want to jump ahead and say this story in a different order. Currently, when celebrities come in to record commercials or cartoon soundtracks, it's usually a quick job. I mean, sometimes
Mhm.
we have a celebrity who may record an audiobook or may have a part on a series, or they're in every week or every day for some period of time. But a lot of the time, celebrities come in, they do their thing, they're out in 10 minutes, half hour, 2 hours. It's quick. And so
Mhm.
therefore, the tendency is to say, to gawk, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, look who it is, and can I get your picture? Can I get your autograph? Whereas going back in time, when bands came in, they would work for 6 months at a time. That was very much
Mhm.
the norm to record music back then. These are back in the days of analog tape. We didn't have digital. We didn't have undo, or we were
Right.
everything was live on this tape. We didn't want the tape to be hanging up for too long, and so everything was done day after day after day. The studios would be booked by a band for multiple months in a shot, and therefore there was never the urge to say, like, to grab a picture, because I knew they'd be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So maybe that's why. Uh,
Mhm.
we have all as celebrities come in, we started hearing that celebrities were telling their agents, "I really only want to record at Edge Studio." That is the name of our studio, Edge
Right.
Studio in New York. We want to record there because there are no photographs, no pictures. It's easy.
Right.
And so
I
when we come in, we just there's no fanfare. Sometimes in my office, my production director might say, "Hey, look who's coming in today," and the word spreads around the office, and we all think, "Oh, this is freaking awesome! Like, we get to work with so and so." But they come in. It's like we do our best to treat it like it's nothing.
Right. And so I wanted to ask you, without naming names, because that would sort of defeat the purpose of no fanfare. I was thinking that probably they also trust you not to go spreading stories about them if you're just treating them like ordinary people. So without naming names, what surprises have you had on meeting celebrities or politicians?
What surprises?
Yeah,
Um,
like are most of them pretty much what you expect them to be, or are they greatly different?
for the most part, they're what we expect.
Hmm.
Uh, there have been some celebrities. You know what? This is interesting. I think the thing that throws us the most is when there are certain celebrities who come in who have big time presence. I mean,
Hmm.
presence. It's like a wall around them. And one happened recently. They came in. it's someone we had never worked with before. They came in. They're the voice of a pilot for a TV
Okay.
show. They're on the show, and so they did the trailers and stuff. They
Mhm.
narrated the trailers, and they came in, and as they came off the elevators on our floor, we have a floor in New York. Uh, there was like it was a wall of presence. Like they just
Mhm.
I don't know, they were just big, powerful. I felt diminished. I'm only at 5'9", they were like 6'2". So even like physically, like I was
Mhm.
diminished. They just like it was big, powerful. It was really like a force. And that
That
surprised us.
is
And I thought it was just me. And
uh-huh.
that session I did not I think I directed the first few minutes of it only. But most of that session was recorded by our lead engineer.
Right.
And at the end of the session, the celebrity left. My lead engineer said, "Wow, that guy was like powerful." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I felt the same way."
This
So it
is
was
a
fun.
fascinating question, and I think in a way it ties exactly to your work of coaching people on presence. So I'm surprised that you seemed surprised, but I'll tell you a story. When I was in high school, I was big into band, not surprisingly, and we had a director. I'm sorry to say he's long since passed. He died way too young, and a lot of people grieved him. His name was John Cuno. He was about this tall. And so when you walked into the band room, here are all these teenage boys, and you're looking and looking for the band director. You couldn't find him. And all of a sudden, you see this man who's like 5'2", 5'3". But he had a powerful presence. And at his memorial, some of the people were talking about, and I experienced this, how here's this little guy. He'd walk into this room with 70 kids with noisemakers, didn't say a word, and boom, they just fell silent, sat down, paid attention, and did what they were told. How do you explain? Why do some people have that presence?
Yeah, it is definitely a lot of it is natural. No question
Hmm.
about it. A whole lot of it is confidence.
Hmm.
You know what's also interesting is uh, I'll tell you a story, and when I get to the conclusion of the story, I think it'll make sense why I'm telling you the story because it's about having this presence and is it natural or not? So there was a kid who we used to record. What was this for? I think it may be a language learning program.
Hmm.
Whatever. We hired like a 9 or 10-year-old actor for a voiceover job. It was like a multi-day thing.
Hmm.
At some point, one of the engineers came out of that studio and said, "David, I'm done. I'm not working with that kid anymore." And I said, "Steve, like you have to. Like this is our client. You have to do the job."
Hmm.
No way. It ends up that Steve would give the direction. Okay, say it a little more slowly, say it a little bit more with more smile in your voice, whatever, when we were recording the
Hmm.
kid. Evidently, the kid would say, "No, it's fine the way it is. Let's just move on to the
Well,
next line."
uh-huh.
The kid was the star of one of the Broadway shows. And I
Mhm.
thought about it, and I realized this kid has grown up on Broadway. They do their 8 performances every week, typically 2, on 2 performances on, like, on a Sunday, for example, so it's every
Mhm.
day plus 2 on Sunday. Kid everyone's bowing to this kid. That's what he's grown up in. Of course, he has this natural presence. It's become
Right.
natural for him. So maybe it's not DNA presence, it's just as we have given him that presence. But boy, this kid
Mhm.
had confidence, sarcasm, the cocky, snarky, and
Uh-huh.
but maybe we have done that to him. It was just it was eye opening. Like I
Right.
don't think that kid was born that way. But when you grow up on stage and people bowing and standing and giving you
Yes.
clapping ovations, I mean, what
Right.
else can you expect at some point?
Well, which brings me to the question, and it's so funny. Some people I interview, and it's very easy to just read the questions in the order I have them. You're kind of taking me all over and leading me right into questions I planned on asking later, but that's okay. Um, brings me to the question of confidence. One of the things you deal with people is helping them to mask their nerves. And I was kind of curious. This is a huge fear for what, like 90% of people, that's their biggest nightmare is public speaking.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've
Yep.
never,
More than like falling from an airplane. It's
right.
more than anything else. Public speaking is their number one fear. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And this, I find, I've always found interesting. I have no fear of public speaking. I never have, which is particularly odd because, especially growing up, for all sorts of reasons, I was pretty much an introvert. And so in ninth grade, we had to give a humorous speech for one of our English classes, and nobody thought I could do it. And I got up and I gave this humorous speech. We had a VOTEC in the other half of our high school. It was a Catholic high school in Duluth, Minnesota. And so the VOTEC students dressed and behaved very differently from the Catholic students in our uniforms and all. And so I gave this very humorous speech with, a drawing and, kind of like the wildlife habitat sort of thing. People were rolling in the aisles laughing. And even the teacher later said, I never thought you could do a thing like that. I've never had a fear of public speaking. Why do so many people fear it so much?
So that's the $1,000,000 question. I can give you my thoughts on it.
Mhm.
I believe it comes back to teachers and parents, truly.
Okay.
And I'm not making fun of parents or teachers, but I think that there's I think there's a hole in the education system,
Mhm.
an unfair hole. So I have 2 sons, and one is in the end of high school, one is in college. But if I think back to grade school, they'd have English class, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, whenever you start taking English class, and they'd put together reports and they'd learn how to write up a report. This is before AI, so they'd have to physically write on,
Right.
paper,
Yeah.
and they'd do the research, and then they had to give an oral presentation. And the question always to me was like, what do you do? Like, how do you give an oral presentation? They weren't taught how to speak in front of a group. So they were taught how to research, how to write how to write an outline, how to fill in the outline with facts, and how to do footnotes and everything, and how to make your outline look nice, how to do a cover page.
Mhm.
But they were never taught what happens when you get up on stage. So all of a sudden, we take these kids who have never been in front of more than a group of friends, and we say either in front of a classroom of 30 kids, or in front of a stage when it's parents' nights and all the kids give their oral presentation in front of 1,000 parents. Go do something. The spotlight's on you, and they've never learned it. Of course, the kids are nervous. Why would you not be nervous?
Right.
If you ask me to do something that I've never done and I have to do it in the spotlight in front of 1,000 people, I'd be nervous.
Yeah.
But maybe now, as I'm older, I'd say, I'd be comfortable enough only because I've learned that it's okay to be able to say, I've never done this before, and I look forward to doing my best. And then the audience becomes empathetic with you, and you score higher, and you do really well. But
Right.
for kids, we throw them into these situations. And
What would you teach kids? How would you teach them how to be on stage and giving a presentation?
I've never been asked that question. I'm going to think of 3 things that come to mind would make a massive difference. Number 1, I would tell them to take space between every sentence. So instead of going from the first thing to the second thing to the third thing, here's the 4th thing, here's the 5th thing. Then
Mhm.
they never give their brains time to catch up. They don't give the audience time to absorb what they're saying.
Yep.
They will get tongue-tied. They will speak in circles. If they take time between the sentences, they can always structure things and people can follow along. I think they will do way better. They will sound better. The second thing, to speak in their natural pitch. Because when
Mhm.
you speak in your natural pitch, you no longer sound nervous. They may be nervous, but they won't sound nervous. And when someone is nervous, it lessens the impact of the quality of what
Right.
you're hearing. Like, it's hard to hear someone sound nervous. You feel bad for them, or you blow them
Yeah.
off, whatever the case. So if the kid just can find the way to speak in their natural pitch and take space, they're going to sound a lot better. But then the big one that comes to mind is teach them how to cover or recover from mistakes. This is
Okay.
the big hole. This is why I believe most adults are nervous speaking in front of people, because they're so scared of messing up. I believe you should be scared of messing up if you haven't learned what to do when you mess up.
Mhm.
And I believe that if you know what to do when you mess up, number 1, because of the understanding of what to do when you mess up, you will be able to cover for it, or recover rather, from it flawlessly. And number 2, because you know how to cover up your mistakes, you won't be nervous and you won't even make mistakes in the first place.
Right. So
That would tell. Oh, sorry.
in jazz, that's called blue note. When you make a
Yes,
mistake, you
sure.
just rename it. That was a
Blue note.
blue note and slide in. So I'm
Absolutely.
saying slide because I played trombone. So you slide into the correct
Yeah.
note.
Yep.
What kind of mistakes are we talking about in public speaking, like
Okay.
mispronouncing a word?
Well, I'll go through the bigger things and then I'll move to the smaller things like your pronunciation. Number one, big things. You forget where you are. You forget something you wanted to say. You get
Mhm.
through, you get halfway through your topic and you realize, oh, well, I forgot to say something at the beginning. I wanted to say another paragraph. Maybe you're given
Mhm.
a list of 5 things and you only can remember 4 things. And we forget things. We all forget
Right.
things. Lots of people say, "Oh, I forget more than anyone else." No, we all forget lots of things.
Yep.
So understanding that if you forget to say something, it's totally fine because the audience won't know what it is that you didn't say, what you forgot. I
Exactly.
I may have wanted to say something earlier, but no one knows, so it's okay. I might be thinking right now, "Oh yeah, I wanted to tell Laura something, but how would you know?" So letting kids
Right.
know or adults know that if you forget something, it's fine. Second thing, if you do want to go back and talk about what it is that you did forget, well, that's fine too, as long as you do it in an organized way.
Hmm.
If I wanted to go back and add something to an earlier answer, I would say, "Hey, I really enjoy what we're talking about now. Do you mind if we just go back to that previous question? You had asked the question about X. I want to add one thing to that."
Right.
And that introduction organizes the information for the listener. And then you
Hmm.
you 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 fill in the information that you had forgotten to say, and then you say, "Okay, thanks for letting me fit that in there. Let's get back to where we were." And because you're organizing where you are, it's totally fine.
Hmm.
It's okay to do that. We do that in real life, but on stage, we're scared to do that. But people are fine with it if as long as you organize it.
Yep.
Another big thing that where people go wrong is someone in an audience, for example, may ask a question, and then you, the presenter on stage, you forget the question. Or more likely, they ask a
Yes.
two-part question and you answer part one, and by the time you are done answering part one, you have no recollection of what part two was. So people start sweating it out. So I would say
And
that's a logical time to just say, answer part one and then say, "Yeah, let me just grab a sip of water." And then you lean over, you get your Monster Energy, you come back,
Mhm.
you have a swig, whatever. And in that second, while you're taking a swig of water, you can think about what it was or recall it. And if you don't recall
and
it, it's totally fine. Oh, sorry.
why are people so afraid just to say, I'm sorry, I forgot what was the second half? Do they feel that's a failure on their part?
Yeah, I'm going to make a suggestion to you right there. I do believe it's very fine. It's actually beneficial to go back and say that you forgot something. I'll explain why it
Okay.
behooves you. It's good to actually go back, but I wouldn't say I'm sorry. I don't think
Hmm.
you need to apologize for that. Let me get back to the what I was saying, and then I'll talk about why I think it's not right to apologize for that.
Okay.
If you go back, if you're on stage, you answer part one of the question, and then you say, "That's a really interesting question. I know you had a second part. What was that second part again? Please remind me."
Okay.
The audience is fine with that. Study after study show audiences are fine with that, and they're so fine with that that it shows that you're human. It shows that you're a real person.
Right.
And scores, your survey scores tend to go up when you say things like, "I remember you asked a great question before. Remind me what that was because I was really excited to get to it." Now it's all about putting it in a positive spin. If you say, and I want to exaggerate the point,
Hmm.
"Oh, geez, sorry, what was that second part of the question?" You look at them. When you go to that apology, it brings everything down, and then your points drop, your survey drops, your
Hmm.
scores drop. I'm a big believer in giving things the positive spin that they deserve. I do want to stress, I'm a huge believer in apologizing when you have something to apologize for and doing it proudly, loudly, and proudly.
Hmm.
Out of that, maybe people have said that before, but I like that it rhymes.
I've
Proudly,
never heard
loudly.
that in relation to
Maybe I've just
apologizing.
come up with that on the first time. I will write that down later in case I'm not sure what to do with it. When if in my office, for example, if we have our team meeting and I mess something up, I will say, "Everyone, I blew that one. I'm sorry. I learned how to not do that again. I will make sure I don't do it again. Sorry that the repercussions it had on extra work for everyone, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I'm very open that, yeah, that was me. That one is definitely on me, and I will not do that again. I've learned, and thanks for, not
Right.
saying you're the worst boss in the world and walking out.
Hopefully no one
So,
says that.
but when you apologize for things that you don't need to apologize for, it really weakens your professional image. It takes a
And
toll on your professional image. So again, on stage, to say, you asked a great second question. I would
Mhm.
love to get that. I remember thinking, oh, I have a great answer. Remind me what that was, versus, geez, I'm sorry, I forgot. What was the other part? What a difference that is, right? So,
I came across, as I mentioned, I spend a lot of time listening to videos when I'm out working with the animals on our farm. And I recently came across a video entitled, what was it? Why Americans Think Germans Are Rude. And it went into some of what you deal with, which is the cadence of our speech. How do you pronounce this word? Prosody?
prosody,
Prosody?
prosody.
That's a word. I've seen it in print. I've never actually heard it pronounced. But it was talking about how Germans don't really use fluff words and fillers and introductions. They just come right to the point. I think the example they used was you go into a store and say, "Can I get such and such a service?" They don't give all the nice feel-good words. They just say, "No." And to them, this is normal. It's practical. It's efficient. Why do you need all these extra words? No, we don't offer that. What else am I going to say but no? To Americans, that comes across as very curt because we like to put all this nice stuff around. And as you were talking about why not say, "I'm sorry," to me, I think that part of the reason people say, "I'm sorry, what was," it's that kind of filler words, at least sometimes. Is that what some of it is? Or do you think it's more that people really are apologetic?
I think it's something else. I think there's a time and place for everything. I really do believe there's a
Mhm,
time and place for everything. And when you're hanging out with your friends, if I'm with my wife and our sons or something like
mhm,
that, and I don't know, I forget the shopping bag inside in the grocery store, I forget to bring it to the car. I might say, "Oops, sorry about that." That's
mhm.
fine. It's
Yeah.
interpersonal. It's interpersonal communication. It shows that I'm equal with everyone. And
Mhm,
at the time, I believe to be totally at ease and be comfortable with saying with the sorries. But when you're
mhm.
on stage and you're expected to give this performance, and wrong or right, people judge you on your performance.
Yep.
I believe that you will have stronger scores. I know you will have stronger scores by giving something the positive spin,
Mhm.
as opposed to apologizing for it.
Right. And I think
Uh,
that what you've done is you've given another way because to me, it's the cadence thing again, where if you just say, "What was the second half of your question?" To me, that sounds curt. And that's why I think I would preface that statement, just because what we're used to in English,
yes,
we're used to the kind of leading into things, and you gave a different way of leading into it.
exactly. Likewise, this is very related. Almost. Oh, I want to go back and preface this with a bit of context.
Okay.
I work with, on average, about 7 different people per day, coaching them
Mhm,
on everything from investor pitches, keynote speeches, narrating a cartoon soundtrack, uh, their elevator pitch, their networking presentation, leading a seminar, being hosted or interviewed on a podcast. I work
mhm,
with people who are sometimes going for promotions at work who just want to really nail that interview.
mhm.
All different scenarios of how you come across. And it's all about words and
Yep.
prosody, which we can talk more about if you want, and presence. So here's the big one, a very big one. And it starts about, it's all about your first impression.
Mhm,
So think about this. First impression happens in under a second. And in under a second, your audience evidently decides 3 things. Number 1, whether they like you. Number 2, whether they trust you. And then ultimately, number 3, whether or not they would do business with you. So if you are giving a customer presentation or an investor pitch or interviewing for a job or something like that, and you want to come across well, boy, first impression is important.
Yeah.
And therefore, it shocks me that almost every single person who comes to my company to interview for a role, or almost every person who I work with on their own presentations, who I coach, make a major faux pas at the beginning of the presentation. The first thing almost everyone does is tap the mic and say, can you hear me? They put up their slideshow called a deck, the presentation.
Mhm.
Can you see my screen? Can you all see my screen? All that shows the recipient is that you haven't tested your equipment, that you doubt yourself, you doubt your technology, you have lack of attention to detail. You talk about a first impression happening in a second, under a second. And if
Mhm.
my first impression is one of doubt, I'm conveying doubt. I'm actually showing you that I'm not trustworthy. I doubt myself. Um, Laura, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Versus Laura, it's great to meet you. Because 99% of the time, if you've checked your equipment beforehand, which you always should, then it's
Mhm.
going to work.
Right.
And on the rare occasion that it doesn't, then the audience will say, we can't hear you. And you'll say, oh, then you have two choices.
Right.
When someone says they can't hear you, you can panic. Oh, crap. Okay. Let me, she's just working. You could do one of those things, or you could say, oh, interesting. Give me a minute, and just stay
Mhm.
positive. And getting back to the beginning of all of that, these are the things we don't give kids on stage.
Right.
So kids go on stage, or adults go on stage, or a keynote speech at a wedding. My goodness, best friends getting married, and people make a speech and they're nervous. They sweat it out for weeks before the speech. You know, oh my goodness, I have to make a keynote speech. I hope I come across okay.
Mhm.
If people are taught in school that it's totally fine to lose your place and just know how to cover when you do, what to say when you lose your place, and people would be okay. If you stumble on a word, you forget a word, it's okay. We all do.
Right.
I very often forget words. I have a tiny vocabulary. It's amazing that I can write a book, seriously.
Yeah.
And and I often forget words in the middle of presentations. It took me a long time to get comfortable with that. I can be
Mhm.
on stage. I'm on stage in some capacity 5 to 7 times a week. Almost every day now. I'm somewhere on a podcast, on a keynote, somewhere, doing something with an audience.
Speaking of
Very
your
often I
book,
lose my place,
yep.
and
And
it's
and
okay.
I think, I think the reason I don't really fear public speaking is because that's exactly what I think. If somebody messes up, I'm like, well, we're all human, we're all going to mess up. And so I think that partly I just assume the audience is going to take the same attitude. We all mess up. What's the big deal if you
Yeah,
stumble on a word?
but it's not taught. That's the thing. So as kids, we don't learn that. One of the things that a lot of public speaking coaches teach or coach to their clients is something
Hmm.
I don't subscribe to. A whole lot of coaches tell the public presenter, when you begin your speech, make some big crazy statement to grab attention, to engage the audience.
Hmm.
I think that is the worst thing to do in your
And why?
because it sets you apart. I could have come on this podcast and said, okay, Laura, guess how many people stumble within 3.5 seconds of their first presentation? How would you possibly know the number?
Right, I
Well, then
wouldn't.
I would say the number is 700,019 or something. All
Hmm.
that does is make me look like a show off. I would be setting myself apart from the audience. When I
Hmm.
begin presentations, I begin with a question that's completely interactive. If I have a question, that is, I have a question that's completely interactive, easy, fun, and it connects me to the audience. I want to be connected with the audience. When I give keynote speeches, unless it's necessary, I don't even
Hmm.
stand on the stage. I want to be in the audience and walking around. And sometimes that's not possible. I like
Right.
it to be as comfortable, as easygoing as, like, we're all at the same level. We should be at the same level. And so setting yourself apart, that goes against everything I would teach anyone in a public presentation. One of the things I mentioned is I work with a lot. I work with a lot of politicians, hundreds of
Hmm.
politicians. And when you make a direct connection through your voice, you're kind of guaranteed that vote. The human voice is the most direct connection to someone's their being. And once you make that
I,
direct connection, you
I
got them.
find that fascinating. Now, I've also heard, I don't know if you have any input on this, that almost without fail, the taller candidate wins. Do you know how true that is?
There's a lot. Yes, there's a lot of validity to that, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
expand that. I want to take that even further and then tell you how you can compensate for that.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 years ago, maybe, I was asked to speak at a large event in Dallas, Texas. A women in business, women as CEO conference.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the number being 162 women there. For some reason, that number stands out. And so I flew out there and I gave it from New York and I gave this presentation. And I had some time to think about what to present. And it dawned on me one day, wow, would be a really interesting topic because women physically are smaller than men.
Mm-hmm.
Their voices are higher pitched than men. Their
Yep.
volumes are softer than men. Women have more upspeak than men, way more upspeak. Do you know what upspeak is?
Finishing on as if you're asking a question.
Exactly, like this. They talk like this more than men.
Exactly.
Women
Mm-hmm.
apologize more than men. Side note, almost every day. I tell my wife, you don't have to apologize for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like she'll say, hey, we're out of bananas. Sorry. I'll say, it's okay. I can get bananas too. Please don't apologize to me. I'm
Right.
equally as capable. Like women apologize a lot more. And this is all backed up, by the way. Everything I'm saying, I researched. So you can't say I'm wrong because I have researched and researched and
Mm-hmm.
researched. And before this conference, I really researched. I came up with a list of 8 reasons or 8 differences between the way men and women project themselves. And most of those I just mentioned. And all of those things, including the height,
Mm-hmm.
give women the lesser advantage, the disadvantage when it comes to a debate. For example, if you take 2 politicians, a man and a woman, and they agree on the same topics, they have the same principles, they come from the same town, all things being equal, but the man is some tall or wider man, and the woman is smaller or slimmer, the man will
Mm-hmm.
probably win that contest. And it's not only with men versus women or women versus men. It's also with men versus men. For example, if I was running for a Senate position in the government, which I won't be doing, promise you that. If I was, and there was another guy who is 6'3", now I'm only 5'9". If they were
Mm-hmm.
6'3" and wider built, so which means they have a wider neck, and neck, you probably know this, usually the wider the neck, the deeper the voice. They
I
would
did
come up with,
not know that actually.
oh, interesting. It's one of one of the key factors of what makes a voice deeper is the width of the neck,
Okay.
and a few other parts of the body contribute to the depth of the voice. The taller they are, the physically larger they are, they gain advantage over me, and the deeper their voice, they gain advantage over me. So when you take this 6'3" guy with a deep voice and you put them with a petite woman with a very soft voice like that,
Mm-hmm.
they have a huge advantage. And so I taught a workshop, which now I've taught many times since, on 8 ways for either a woman or someone with a softer voice to compensate. So they level the playing field, so to speak, with this man with a big, deep voice. I think it must go back to like the days of dinosaurs when the louder roar would rule that the jungle, right? You know, that
Mm-hmm.
roar was scary. It was big, as loud, as deep, and
Right.
that's still in our guts. If you hear a dog bark and it's a throaty, loud bark, it's scarier than a little
Yes.
yap yap dog.
Yes. Although, from all I know, you should be more scared of the yappy dogs.
Absolutely, those yappy dogs bite a lot, but when we
Mm-hmm.
hear that fierce, that tough bark, it's scary. And
Yes. I had, she died almost a year ago, but we had an Irish Wolfhound, and she was the gentlest dog you would ever meet. But she had, when she chose to use it, she had this deep voice. And if she came and decided to look out the window, she, if I was sitting on a stool, she would poke my shoulder with her nose. She was that big. And so you see this massive black dog and you hear this big, deep voice that sounds like she's going to rip your face off.
Yeah,
Nobody was coming in our house because
absolutely.
they didn't know what was behind that deep voice. But
Yeah.
anyway, carry on.
Well, but that's the thing. It's you were asking about the height, and so the height does absolutely has something to do with an advantage. So having an advantage of being a better public speaker or winning a contest in a political race over someone who is shorter. And women tend to physically, naturally be shorter than men.
And so how do you advise women to compensate or shorter men?
Oh, easy. Number one, just do the opposite of the things I mentioned earlier. So, for example, women do tend to speak with more upspeak. So, for example, a woman may say, in the government, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. They use more hedge words like the word think. Whereas if they say, we should do this, when they speak with a declarative tone rather than upspeak, a declarative tone will make a massive difference. When they lose hedge words and use positive words, I believe we can do this versus I think we can do this. I believe we can do this. Listen to the difference of that one sentence. A woman may naturally default to saying, I think we could do this. And here's an example. With the budget, I think we can do this. Versus saying, given the budget, we can do this. And it just sounds more confident. Now you have to take that and still add personality to it and all, but it's removing of hedge words, it's keeping things declarative that makes a big difference. So that's compensating for the upspeak that women tend to use more than men, and getting rid of apologies, as I said earlier. In terms of spacing, men do tend to go from one thing to the second thing to the third thing to the fourth thing, as I demonstrated earlier. So if a woman can compensate, if they can do better than the men, better than men, and say one fact, take a break, and then a second fact, and then a third fact.
I have to say
And it makes a big difference.
It actually bothers me to hear this, that people are so influenced not only by the height, but by the tone of voice, by using different words, because to my mind, I think that you should be listening to policy, assessing policy. That would be my concern. How do you get people to pay attention to the policy and the long-term impacts rather than...
Yeah, but if a woman has, or a man or a woman, if they have upspeak, it shows doubt, because you said it, you used the word question yourself. It sounds like a question. So if I want to convince you of something, and I say, if I say some fact like red equals blue, it sounds ridiculous. But if I say, you know what, red equals blue. Now, I know that's a ridiculous example I just came up with, but the fact is, by saying it like a question, it doesn't show that I'm confident about it. And in government, you want to show that you're confident.
You know, we had years ago when my daughter graduated, in fact, she went to college in New York City. Do you know where St. John's University is?
No, in New York City.
Oh, really?
We know our little block, and that's about it. Yeah. I know my little area.
Trying not to get sidetracked, she ran into exactly that. She met a lot of people who had literally never left Long Island, but they knew everything about Minnesota. They knew that we had no electricity. They knew that we don't have cities. They knew. And she would say, have you ever been to Minnesota? No, but everybody knows. And she's like, how do you think I contacted you on Zoom if we don't have electricity? So anyway, just to sidetrack, which leads me to exactly, now I forgot where we were in our talk. What were you just saying?
I have no idea. It's okay. We were talking about the 8 different ways that a woman can compensate when they give a presentation.
Okay.
So they cross really strongly.
Okay.
But it's all simple things. You know what's interesting? Everything I focus on and all the coaching I do are simple things. When I work with people, they always say, wow, like the smallest tweak to my wording or to my speaking, to the prosody of speaking, or to my presence makes a huge difference.
Well,
it's unbelievable how much impact it has. Tiny changes, but people don't recognize where they need to change. People tend to be unaware of the things that audiences are aware of subconsciously or consciously. That's the best way I could word it, actually. I want to remember this. The people who present are are almost always unaware of the things that can work against them when from the audience's perspective. So audiences do take things in consciously or even subconsciously,
Mm-hmm.
and it works, and it really like flavors how they perceive that politician or that executive or that
Right.
entrepreneur giving a startup pitch, or a kid at the grade school giving an oral presentation, or
Right.
a boss leading a seminar. So the people who give the presentations aren't aware of the things that the audiences are aware of. And that's what I focus on, helping the people who are giving the
Mhm.
presentations be aware of those things.
And that's one thing I wanted to ask you about was on your page, you're talking about leveraging words and phrasing, tone, intent, rhythm, pitch, all of these things. And it begins to sound very complex. Like this is so much to learn and remember. But in reality, it sounds like people actually can learn these things very quickly.
Easily.
Okay. And even though there are so many different aspects of it, or do most people only have one or two things that they need to work on?
Somewhere in between. Most people have about 9 or 10 things to work on.
Okay.
And then
So,
it's just a job of remembering to do those things.
right.
For
So
some people,
changing your habits.
yeah, exactly. And they are habits. They're quirks, the way we speak.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that almost every speaker does that in fact, it is so common that speakers do these particular things that I could probably record myself giving a lesson, have someone come in place, like in face to face with me. I could take a nap and just play the recording of me, and it would
Mm-hmm.
probably sync up perfectly. It's the same things to a very large degree. It's the
So,
speed of sentences, that like how rapid fire they are with one thing into the next thing into the next thing. It's not organizing
mhm,
words for their listeners. It's thinking a lot about presence, by the way, a whole lot of things about presence. And
right.
it's three things. It's wording, speaking, and presence. And that is the word prosody, which we've come up. And if
Okay.
you don't mind, maybe I can define prosody, because you and
Yeah,
I have
go
mentioned
ahead.
that word. And most people don't know what it is, which shocks me. And I'm not shocked that people don't know what it means, because they should know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, I'm shocked that as a society, we don't know what it means, because it means that we're not taught from the days we are in school what prosody is. Prosody is how you speak. It's your speed of your words. It's the spacing between your sentences. It's your pitch. It's your intonation, the melody of your voice, the rhythm of your voice. It's how you say it. You know, you've heard the expression. People say, "It's not what you say; it's how you say it."
Yep.
That's prosody.
Mm-hmm.
There's no synonyms for prosody, and I have looked probably 10 times over the years. There's not a synonym for it. That's the only word. Yet we don't know it, because we're not taught as kids to think about our prosody. That
Right.
brings us back full circle. These kids are thrown on stage in front of 1,000 parents in an auditorium, and they've never been taught how to speak publicly. Of course, they're nervous. We're never taught
Right.
this stuff.
So if it's kind of basic things, would you say that you're pretty much teaching the same techniques to Broadway stars as to politicians or someone giving a TED talk or an interview?
I would estimate 50% of it is the same. Every people from different areas typically have different need different things. So we do work with a lot of people from Broadway. Our studios, it's 5 studios in one location. It's in one facility. It's one floor,
Mhm.
and we're in Times Square. It's such a cool location. I could walk out, and it's like lit up, and it's all exciting. So we have Broadway actors come over. They're used to stage performance. They're used to talking like this, and they're big and they're loud and
Mhm.
everything. And I always have to say, like, here you're talking to one person. When you're giving a speech, whether you're recording a commercial, who, even though a million people may listen to, everyone is by themselves.
Mhm.
They may be recording an audiobook. A million people may listen, but everyone is listening by themselves. They may be giving a presentation, leading a seminar, but everyone is there to learn the stuff themselves. We have to remind these Broadway stars, tone it down. Talk to one
Mhm.
person, not to an auditorium of 1,000 people. Talk to one person. Different groups have different experiences and sometimes need some different kinds of coaching. And then depending on the venue, we have to prepare them. So we focus a ton. Interestingly, a third of our time is spent working on the venue. So someone who's going to speak on mic needs to come across differently than they would on stage versus on camera versus on Zoom versus in person. If a politician, anyone is about to give a keynote speech or whatever, if it's a handheld microphone, they have to learn how to use the handheld versus a lavalier microphone, which is the microphone that clips to a shirt or something.
Okay.
There are simple things to learn about each kind. There are 5 kinds of microphones, and there's simple things to learn about each one, but you have to figure out what the best one is and get used to it. I could go like the differences are massive between the understanding and using the 5 kinds of microphones, but there's simple stuff. As simple as if you have a handheld.
What would be an example?
Yeah, with a handheld microphone, it's very easy. Handheld microphones are great in so many ways because people who are nervous have something to clutch onto. It gets rid of those nerves. It helps get rid of the nerves. It gives your hands something to do because everyone says, "Oh, use your hands on stage," and you feel like okay, at least one hand has a purpose and everything like that. Unless you're really used to it, the tendency is to move the mic farther or closer to your mouth. You might walk around and swing your arm and then people hear some words and they don't hear some words. And they hear the next word and they don't hear the next word. Then they hear the next word. And so then you can move to a lavalier microphone. Okay, well, that sounds great. It clips on. You don't see it. And maybe you can get a wireless one. You don't need to worry about batteries. However, with a lavalier microphone, which, by the way, is also known as clip-on microphones, shirt microphones, tie microphones, lapel microphones. I've heard them called all different things over the years. I think they're all the same. Lavalier microphones, if you have a shirt, especially that sheen, like a nylon running suit, it's so noisy when you touch it. I don't know if you hear this noise, but or a starched shirt, it makes a lot of noise. Some people tend to kind of do this when they're like on stage, they kind of touch their arms and that can make noise. And the biggest con with a lavalier microphone, and this is interesting, because you don't see it, you kind of forget it's there. And therefore, people who are not used to lavalier microphones throughout their speech, they're getting louder and louder and talking to row Z, and now it sounds so impersonal. Versus when you have a microphone like this, like it's here. Like I know not to scream because I'm reminded it's like this is your ear. If you're listening on headphones, I'm talking into your ear essentially. Anyway,
I made a very funny mistake because I knew nothing about these when it happened. I was on whatever TV station it was in Minneapolis, and I didn't know that they wanted to run the cord up the back of my shirt and down. That was going to come out wrong. I was about to say I didn't wear a shirt. I wore a dress. And they were like, that's awkward. So I'll give that advice. Make sure you wear pants and a shirt if you're going to be wired up with one of those.
Yeah.
So you are actually here to talk about your book, 6 Seconds to Say It Better. So before we go to a reading, I would ask people to visit our sponsor, GabrielSornPress.com. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your funniest story about public speaking, or maybe I should say your worst nightmare, given most people don't like public speaking. So tell us a little bit about your book.
I never intended to write a book. Going back probably 20 years ago, I found common denominators in speech that just kind of made sense. And I just started listing them out, and there was 10 things and then 20 things and 2 pages and then 10 pages. And these lists began growing and growing and growing and growing. And then one day I had a client, Mercedes-Benz hired me to talk with in Long Island, in fact, to talk with their corporate team, which were based in Long Island at the time. Evidently, the call staff, the customer representatives who took those days took telephone calls, weren't trained how to properly answer questions. So a potential customer might call the corporate office and say, for example, I'm interested in a particular car, but the mileage is really crappy. What do you suggest? And the representatives didn't really have good answers for those questions, and you need a well-crafted answer for something like that.
Yeah.
So evidently, the representatives were saying things which weren't all that great. So they hired me to come in and teach just some skills that think about the answers from the perspective of the potential customer. How do your words land? And we came up with like dynamite lists of like great things to say. So, for example, if someone is concerned about the gas mileage, the car is great, but the gas mileage sucks. Maybe the answer could be, well, when you compare this car to other cars with this kind of energy, this kind of engine, this powerful of a car, the gas mileage is twice as good as other manufacturers. Like it's significantly better, and you still get the same powerful engine. Like you find some positive spin. And so with Mercedes, I began even additional lists of ways to word things and finding ways to say things one way or another way. And it became, well, you could say it like this, or you could say it like this. And I think the latter way is a lot better. And eventually it became a book. And I'm super excited for this book to come out. 6 seconds to say it better.
Oh, is it still coming out?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was out already.
No, it's not officially out.
Okay.
The book is done. We have the cover for the book. I've been presenting about the book. It's been articles have been published and chapters have been published on the book, but the actual book is officially released next year, early in the year.
Okay, how early in next year?
Well, that's up to 2 questions with the publisher.
Okay.
So, yeah, it will probably be February or March. Yeah.
Okay.
We're still.
Do you have a reading?
I do. Yeah. So the interesting thing we're focusing on is how to lay out the book, how to graphically lay it out. That's the thing that we've been going through back and forth with hardcover, soft cover, what size page, because it's a lot of bullets. It's a really interesting book. It is a book, but it's more like a guidebook.
Okay.
And so it may be like in this example, you could read something like this, or you could say something like this with a couple of bullets, or like this with a couple of bullets. And here's why there's a difference.
Okay.
And so with a lot of bullets, there's a lot of white space, which I like. But now it makes a book that could be 100 pages long. It seems like it's a 300-page book. So we're working with the graphic artist, trying to figure out what size page to use and how to graphically lay it out.
Okay.
So,
I love the sound of this because one thing that drives me absolutely crazy about a lot of self-help type books, they might have good advice, but they'll take a chapter that literally you could have had 1 page of bullet points, and they'll stretch it out into 10 pages with story after story after story. And I'm like, you could have said this. I like to think that I'm a very efficient person. And why didn't you just say this in 1 or 2 pages? I didn't need 15 stories that all say the same thing. So I already approve of your book.
Oh my goodness, that's
unseen.
Awesome. I can show you an example of it if you want to see one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, may I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to hit share. And I won't say, can you see it?
I can't.
I will not say that when I share it. Here it goes. This is a typical page in the book. In this example, a new customer asks.
I actually cannot see it.
Oh, that is funny.
Ironic, considering the conversation we've had.
It shows me that it's sharing.
There we go.
Yay. By the way, notice the importance of not stressing out when that happens. This is
exactly
something to point out to everyone that most of the time things do share and things work. And if it doesn't work, someone will say something.
Fix it. Yep.
And when you are, for anyone out there who has to give a presentation of any kind, whether it's a toast at your friend's wedding or you're leading a class, whatever, you fill in for a teacher at your kid's school or something like that, you read to your kid's class. I remember, oh my goodness, when our kids were young on their birthdays, parents could go in pre-COVID and read to the classroom. So much fun. Anytime you have an opportunity to do something like that, take it. And if something goes wrong, it's okay. It really is okay. No one cares. No one will judge. Okay, here,
Especially with kids.
maybe, yeah, kids, I don't know. It's just, hey, always enjoy the experience. Oh,
Right.
oh my goodness. I just hit a button here. Hang on. There, that's where we want to be. Okay. Here's an example, everyone. In this scenario, a new customer asks if you can complete a project by Monday, end of day. This is like a very common question. At least we get it in my business. A customer will call a brand new customer. We hear your business can do this kind of project. Can you get it done by Monday, the end of the day? So if we go to the next slide, this is what a lot of people will say. Yeah, I think we could do that, but it'll take some preparation. I want to point out a way to rephrase this line here where my cursor is moving, a way to simply rephrase it that I believe will make you 98% more successful. It will make you 98% more likely to get the customer. And in this example, you would change 3 things. Number 1, change the word think for believe. Think is a hedge word. Hedge words don't sell that well. Hedge words are words that convey uncertainty. I think we can. That doesn't have the confidence. Second thing, the word but. I would exchange the word but, or I would replace the word but with the word and. But is a negative word. Why would you want to insert a negative word? As soon as you hear the word but, you think something bad is coming. So get rid of the word but and use the word and. Third thing, I really believe it's critically important, when possible, when it makes sense, to begin your answers with a positive word. The word yeah here, while it's not necessarily negative, of course, is not super positive. There's no excitement there. I want to show you another example here. Another way to say this, instead of saying, yeah, I think we can do that, but it'll take some preparation. I'm going to show you a different way to say that. It conveys the same information, but without the hedge word, think, without the negative word, but, and it begins the sentence with a positive word. Look at this. Absolutely, we can do this, and I look forward to taking some time to carefully prep for it. Going from the some say version, where my cursor is here, to the say it better version, I calculate you will be 98% more likely to get that customer. That means you've essentially doubled your customers just by changing 3 things in your language. Laura, earlier I said that anything I teach is not hard. It's just things you need to remember. The book that we have is like 5,000 things like this. I'm guessing at that number. It's 100 pages of just stuff just like this. All different scenarios. It would be impossible, I believe, to memorize all 100 or 300 pages wherever we end up landing, depending on the graphics. It's the concept. It's taking a moment, 6 seconds, which is a proven number of how long it takes, to think about how your words will land. And that's the key thing. Think how your words will land to the recipient and then adjust accordingly. That's what this book is about.
That really jumped out at me. And, I think we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences. And my thought on reading that was, how much can we really control how somebody takes our words? Like, some people are very sensitive, touchy, very quick to assume the worst or to assume the best. So what kind of ratio would that land in that we can really control, that people take our words in the best possible way?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question, because I want you to ask that one more time, please.
Okay, I'm trying to think how I can reword this. Let's say there's somebody who, I don't know, has met a lot of con men in their lives, or a lot of very negative, critical people in their lives, and they're sort of primed to look for the negative in anything anyone says. And you come with a perfectly reasonable, positive message, and you've given it all these ways that it can land as you intended, but you're dealing with someone who is primed to take things negatively, no matter what.
There are always
So
people like that.
where's the balance?
You know what? I believe there are always people like that, and there are always people who will believe you. And some, like by nature, some people are just negative, and some people are positive, and
Mhm.
some people are more believing, and some people are more accepting, and some people aren't believing or accepting. And on average, I really believe that these writing concepts or speaking concepts work. Let me, if it's okay, I'd like to show you two other quick examples.
Yeah.
And also let me preface this even that by saying where I get this 98% number.
Hmm.
I made sure to say this is how I calculated. I calculate this will be you'll be 98% more likely to be successful here. The 98% is not a scientific number. I researched how much more effective are people when they eliminate hedge words. And people are, I
Hmm.
don't remember the exact numbers, but around 100% more successful
Okay.
by removing hedge words. And then I looked up how much more successful can you be simply by replacing the word but with the word and.
Hmm.
And I did the same thing for starting a sentence on a positive note. And I averaged those three numbers out and I got the 98.
Okay.
So it's not a scientific number, which I want to always be clear with. So whether it's 90% or 110%,
Right.
it's somewhere in that pocket. Let me show you some other examples. The next example, I want to even tell you this example. The example in the book is based on a business situation,
Okay.
but I want to first give you a variation of that example with my son. I remember a couple of years ago on a Sunday night when he was perhaps in 8th grade or 9th or 10th grade or something like that. On a school night, he said at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, on a Sunday night, he said, "Dad, could you take me and my friends to the mall?" And I remember wanting to say, "Dude, it's like Sunday, like 9 o'clock at night. It's a school night. It's this, the mall's closed anyway." Like,
Hmm.
and I stopped myself. Laura, when someone answers you and their first word is no, how do you feel? If I said to my son, no, how does he feel? Immediately he feels rejected.
I guess, again, I think I'm a very practical person. If I asked my parents that and they said no, I'd be like, well, of course they said that. It's 9 o'clock and the mall is closed. What was I trying to do by asking them?
No,
So,
maybe. Well, see, this is where people are different. I have found that
right.
a lot of people feel rejected.
Hmm.
And so I turn around, I take a moment, I take up to 6 seconds, which is how long it takes to really process the brain. And I'd say, I'd love to take you to the mall. I really would. Except the mall's closed now. Let's plan to go tomorrow at like 3 in the afternoon
Hmm.
after school. I speak that way to our clients. I speak that way to my family. I speak that way to my employees. I really try to keep things warm. I have that as an example here. I'm going to skip to a page that has the same information in a different color. So it's just take a moment to kind of get used to here. Okay, so oh, so your colleague asks, "Hey, want to go out after work?" Here's the same example with a business situation. "No, I have to work tonight." Versus, "Yeah, I'd love to. Can we go tomorrow?" It's just a nicer way. Let me show you one or two other quick examples of how to change words so you come across in a more positive light. The goal of all of this ultimately is to make a solid, a good impression. The first impression, to make a strong first impression, is to make people more receptive of your messages. You want people to listen to you and be receptive.
Right.
It's to build credibility, it's to build trust and not have people feel rejected by you. So I'm going to jump a few screens ahead here. If anyone thinks they might have vertigo, close your eyes for a moment. Let me just jump ahead a couple of screens here for you. I know which one I want to find for you. Okay, open your eyes. Okay. So here's the scenario at the top. The top red is the scenario. You were slammed at work. It took a while to get back to someone. You could say, "Hey, Bev, sorry for my delay in getting back to you. I had a lot of work and I fell behind." Let me ask you, would you ever want to do work with someone who falls behind because they're busy? How could you trust them as a customer? Now, it's nice that they're apologizing and all, right? But people get lots of work. That means every time they have work, they're going to fall behind again. I won't hear from them. I would rather say, and I read this line where my cursor is now, I'd rather say, "Hi, Bev, I'm catching up on emails and how fun to see yours." I believe that to Bev, that will be a huge a huge difference in how she, or I guess it's a her name, he or she, I'm trying to be politically correct here,
Right.
interprets or perceives my message. Instead of me saying, sorry, I say, hey, I'm excited to see your email. Or look at this alternative here. The alternative here is, hey, Bev, it's been an amazing last few weeks. I'm starting with a positive. We had a number of new projects come our way, and now I'm excited to work with you. That's giving things a positive spin. So if I do, well, I do fall behind sometimes. I sometimes I turn around in an hour. I think, how did I get so many emails in an hour? And I have to go out to dinner or something like that, or see a client for 4 hours, and I know that I'm going to be behind. They need something right away. Instead of always apologizing, oh, sorry, I didn't get to you. Sorry, I didn't get to you. I say, hey, I just had an amazing project, and now I'm super excited to get back to you. I keep it positive. It makes a big difference. I want to show you one more. Close your eyes if you can have vertigo. Here goes. Okay, look at this one. Some people say, hey, don't forget about our 10 a.m. meeting. Laura, this is based on someone in my office who almost always, I should say, 99% of the time will be late for meetings or will forget meetings. And I find myself wanting to say, don't forget we have that 10 a.m. meeting. Now, I am the boss, and I don't like that word boss. But I'm the employer. Let me use that word. I don't even like that word. We're a team. But to illustrate the point, I have every right to say, don't be late. But if I'm bringing someone into a meeting with a client, I want them to feel empowered and good and positive, not diminished right before they walk into that meeting.
Yep.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to come out of that meeting with my customer saying, Edge Studio rocks. So to diminish my employee right before we go in or earlier that morning, I think is dumb. So these are different ways that I would say the same thing. Hey, I'm really looking forward to meeting at 10. Let me jump to the bottom one and work up. Hey, is 10 a.m. still good for you? Hey, for our 10 a.m. meeting, I'm going to get there a little early in case you're there earlier, in case you can join us earlier.
Okay.
There are different ways to communicate the same thing. And so I'm a big believer, and that's what this book is about, is that if you want to be perceived in a positive way, if you want to increase your success of people being more receptive to you, perceiving you as being more credible, more competent, more confident, if you want to make those stronger first impressions, then just take a moment to land your words differently. And it goes beyond this, because in the book we also talk about adjusting for on mic, on camera, on stage, in person, is reading the room. It's everything that goes into communication. It's nonverbal communication. It's your presence. It's all of this stuff.
Yep.
It just takes seconds to do.
One thing I'm really wondering as you talk, and I'm reflecting back to my response is, I don't think I feel rejected if someone just says, no, I'm not able to do that right now. I'm wondering how much of that is culture, going back to what I was saying about how Germans just have different way of expressing themselves, and it's cultural. I did spend my first 5 years in Germany. And so I think this is fascinating that you're saying most people would take this as rejection. How much do you find cultural differences, even just within America, or would your work apply 99% to Americans?
This book is for American English, not even British, not even Australian English, and so on.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Interesting.
we teach a course on learning for people in the business world, non-native English speakers working in U.S. English-based businesses, to understanding
Very
the cultural
interesting.
differences, and not softening or losing your accent, but adapting because of your accent. Because a lot of people will come over from another country and not be able to tailor, or not know how to tailor their speaking so they can be understood. And as a result of that, people who speak accented English or accented American English very often lack the confidence to speak up in meetings. They are held back. And so we say, keep your accent. You do not need to lose your accent. That's part of you. But there are things, ways that you can speak, simple things you can do, simple techniques, adjustments you can make to the way you speak. 2 or 3 simple adjustments will make it so other people can understand you. And then you have
Mhm.
the confidence and you can speak and get the promotions that you deserve, because you should be, anyone with an accent has every right to go for the promotion. But
Right.
if you're not understood, then it's hard to get that promotion, because if people don't understand you, they don't
Right.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, our priest is from Indonesia, and I don't know if he's getting better at picking up the accent here or if we're just getting better at understanding him, but it was very hard at first to adjust to that. So I know one thing we talked about was tips for how to not sound tipsy. What's your best advice on that?
Yeah, so I love this topic. It's all about masking a sound. So for your priest from Indonesia, 2 or 3 changes to their speaking technique
Hmm.
would make it so much easier for the entire congregation to follow along, to understand what they're saying. And it's
Hmm.
similar if you are tipsy. So you go out in the middle of the day from work at lunch and you have a couple too many and you sound tipsy when you come back to the office. 6 6 things vocally can make you sound untipsy. You will still be tipsy, but you won't
Hmm.
sound tipsy. I do want to stress that the word tipsy does mean kind of tipping over. And the
Yep.
speaking things won't stop you from tipping over. Like you may still walk like this, but if you're on the phone, you won't sound tipsy. Or
Hmm.
at minimum, they will lessen it. So I brought this list of 6 things to mask sounding tipsy. Number 1, and by the way, I think I've probably mentioned all of these because they really work in lots of situations. Number 1, speak in your natural pitch. When people are tipsy, oh, you're a musician. You know what happens.
Yeah.
What happens to someone's pitch when they're tipsy? Their pitch goes
You
higher.
know, I have to say, I don't deal with that many tipsy people. I mean, I teach music lessons to children, and if they show up drunk to a music lesson, we have
Yeah.
bigger
Yeah,
problems.
you sure do.
I
Yeah.
actually don't know.
Pitch goes up.
Okay.
Yep. And
That would have
interestingly,
been my guess.
and it and but here's a more interesting part of that. Do you know why why their pitch would go up?
No.
Because because they're drunk, they're sillier, they're funnier. It's not that their natural pitch has raised, as that they're just in like an enlightened way, and they tend to speak higher in pitch.
Okay.
To mask that, just make sure you focus on your natural pitch, and likewise your natural volume. When people are tipsy, they tend to get louder.
Hmm.
And so if you come in after having a couple of drinks and your pitch is higher and you're louder, you're kind of talking like that for a bit, something sounds off.
Yep.
Next thing, leave more space between your sentences.
Yep.
Ed,
Are you
and
frozen
therefore,
or are you demonstrating?
did I just freeze?
I'm not sure if you froze or if you were demonstrating leaving space between sentences.
Oh, I think I must have frozen there, which would have been
Okay.
amazing timing. Yeah, very
It
fortuitous
was
timing.
perfect timing.
It's
Yes.
funny. So leave space between sentences, because when you are drunk, you don't organize those thoughts in your heads. You don't take
Hmm.
the time to organize, and you don't want to forget what you're saying, and so you tend to spitfire your sentences, or the sentences within a phrase, or within a paragraph, or the paragraph to
Hmm.
the paragraph. You just whip through things. People feel rushed through the information you're giving them, and that is a giveaway. Well, 3 things so far are giveaways that someone is tipsy: louder volume, higher pitch, rapid fire with their sentences. The 4th thing to do is slow down the first word of your sentence. When people are, well, I want to say this differently. In everyday conversation, we do tend to rush the first word of our sentences. 99% of us do. I do, you do, we all do. Basically everyone does.
I
When you're
really
drunk,
notice that when I'm editing
oh,
videos.
you will. The first
And
word will be
it
like,
is hard to
yes,
cut it sometimes where I need to because we slur right from the end of one sentence into the beginning of the next.
yep. That's so cool. Only editors will typically notice that, by the way.
Hmm.
So slow down the first word of your sentence. And when you do, oh, sorry, I'm going out of order here, because when you are tipsy, you rush that first word even more so.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on bringing that pacing down of the first word of your sentence. Fifth thing, when people are tipsy, they have way more uptalk, also known as upspeak.
Mm-hmm.
Everything goes like this, and then this happened like that, and the next thing happened like this, and everything goes up at the end of the sentence. The pitch keeps rising like this in intonation. It's like a melody that keeps going up. So focus
Uh-huh.
on speaking more declaratively, like a period at the end. It will make you sound more believable, more level-headed.
So my
Final one,
first advice for how not to sound tipsy in the second half of your workday is don't go
don't
out
drink.
drinking at lunch.
Yeah,
I
well,
would
that
have
would do it
started
too.
there. But I am curious, if somebody is already tipsy, do they have the wherewithal to even remember these things?
You may not remember them, but if you have a cheat sheet, it might help you.
Okay.
And it takes
So
practice.
write
And
it on your arm and
yeah,
again,
yeah,
back to habits.
tattoo it. That's a
Yeah,
good thing for tattoo right here.
right.
The sixth thing is eliminate filler words, because when you are tipsy, filler words tend to be increased by anywhere from 30 to like 80%. People will have that many more filler words. Filler words like, and like, in addition to ums.
Yep.
When someone is drunk, you get so what we're doing like is, where we went out, it wasn't, well, it was like a kind of a small restaurant, and you get all those, and the likes, and you will have more of those when you are drunk. So if you can focus on eliminating those, which will be easier if you take space between sentences, by the way, then you will mask you'll mask the fact that you're tipsy. It can be
I
done.
think you're also going to have a lot more likes in your sentences if you grew up in the 80s.
Yes, you will. From the
That
Valley
that
Girls.
was sort of a cultural downfall of that era. You have one other book out, or at least part of a book with Tony Robbins.
I do.
Yeah, what is that about?
There's a book called Cracking the Rich Code. Rich, not in terms of money, which you would think with Tony Robbins, but rich in terms of life, your success, your personal success in life. Again, not financial success, but life success.
Right.
Cracking the Rich Code. And it's a multi-volume book. And Tony has various co-authors. And I was chosen to be a co-author. And that was a feather in my cap, is what it is.
I'd say it's a huge
I'm on the
huge
front
feather.
cover of the book with Tony Robbins. I have it's the one of the few things I save is on a shelf just a few feet over that way. It's an exciting thing.
That's great. So if there are multiple volumes, what aspect did you focus on? Did you write the whole book or write
No.
chapters of it?
I have one chapter in that book.
Okay.
Yeah, chapter
And
2.
what is your chapter about?
It's called Little. I hope I remember this correctly. I can grab it. It's how little changes in your voice can make a big difference in how you are perceived.
Okay, great. So
And it
I
talks
would
about a whole bunch of it's sort of like the things I've showed you here today, whether it was that PowerPoint presentation I showed, some of the vocal techniques. It's a whole bunch of little things like that. And they're listed out in sort of concepts. There's not a paragraph on recovering from sounding tipsy, but if you want to sound more confident in an interview, here are 3 vocal things to do. And if you want to come across more effectively when leading a seminar, here are 4 things to do. Whether it's with your microphone, whether your presence, your wording, your prosody, or a combination of those things.
Okay. So obviously I would encourage people to check that out. You have had a lot of great advice. Where can people find you online?
Easy. 2 places. No, 3 places. My website is edgestudio.com. Studio is singular. That's a lesson learned. By the way, think ahead, everyone. I began my business a long time ago, 38 years ago, and I thought, I'll have 1 studio. It's a music studio. Never thought maybe I'll have 2 or now 5. And so it's
Think
studio.
big.
Yeah. And I know for a fact we lose email, because I know the company edgestudios.com, it's a software company. They get our email, we get theirs.
Oh my.
So we talk
Okay.
back and forth, and yeah, we swap emails.
Mhm.
So again, David well, sorry, my website is edgestudio.com. My email address is david@edgestudio.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and my address
Okay.
there is David W. Goldberg. If you're adding the
Okay.
W for my middle name, David W. Goldberg. It's all the regular LinkedIn.com / whatever they have, their preface, and then David W. Goldberg.
And I should add Goldberg. It will be on the screen anyway, but it's B-E-R-G. It's not the German B-U-R-G. So
Oh,
wonderful.
I want to share a really fast, funny thing. Just it happened about a week or two ago. I was calling a doctor's office for a dentist appointment, and on the
Mhm.
phone they asked me for my last name, and I said Goldberg. And I had a feeling that they needed to spell it out for them, and I started saying that's G-O-L. I started spelling it, and the woman said, you don't need to spell it. I can spell it. Is that with a U or an E? I thought that was the funniest thing. She said, you don't need to spell it. Is that with a
And
U or
then
an E?
spell it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, speaking of names and spellings, I find it hilarious. We live in a place with the Powell Mountain and the Powell Valley. My legal last name is Powell. I just, I use Vosika because I've been using it so long. And so I've gotten used to spelling my last name Vosika because nobody knows how to spell Vosika. It's Czech. And so here, we're surrounded by the Powell Mountains, Powell Valley, Powell River, and I'm in the habit of spelling it. So I'll start to say Laura Powell, P-O, and then I go, you don't need me to spell Powell. And so I think it was just today I had to give my name to someone, said Powell. She said, how do you spell that? And I'm thinking, how do you not know how to spell that where we live? So last names are interesting to me. They're fascinating. You can find me at booksandbrews.net. My books are at Laura Vosika, VOSIKA.com. That's just Vosika, not the additional VOSIKA. You can find our sponsor at gabrielshornpress.com. And you can find all those wonderful farm animals at glenmerrillfarms.wordpress.com. And that is plural in this case. I always forget if I made it farms singular or farms plural. So next week we have, perhaps not next week, it depends how quickly I get these out. We have Patti Stewart, and her book is A Woman's Guide to Self-Defense, Defense in Heels. So if she's going to teach me how to fight in stiletto heels, I'm out. But anyone who wants to learn how to fight in heels, I'm sure you can wear tennis shoes too. We'll find out when we talk to Patti Stewart. So it has been an absolute delight talking to you. Cheers.